Hello everyone, welcome to Scorched Earth Toys at AnyMoon.com's review of Bandai's High Metal R VF-4 toys. The VF-4 was seen very briefly in the animation Flashback 2012 and has been a cult favorite among fans ever since. This toy was released in March 2019 for 12,000 yen. As a Macross product, you'll have to check your specialty import stores for availability. For anything else you might be shopping for, head on over to Big Bad Toy Store. They have loads of Robotech toys, Transformers, and everything else you may collect. And by shopping through the link in the comments below, you help me bring you more content. This toy continues the High Metal R tradition of excellent box art. Beyond that, there's nothing special about the box, and you won't even find a tray inside it, just a plastic clamshell. In the plastic clamshell, you'll find the toy plus a pilot figure, 2 intake fan detail parts, a fin you'll need to install under the nose, 2 optional thigh covers for fighter mode, 3 landing gear, 3 pairs of fixed posed hands, a VF-1 style gun pod, a grip for that gun pod, and a fighter mode attachment part, 2 display stand adapters, 1 for fighter and Garwalk mode and 1 for Batroid. And taped to the back of the tray, you'll find a Tamashii Stage Act 5 clear display stand. Behind the tray, you'll also find the instruction booklet. You can find a full scan of the instructions up on AnyMoon.com, and be sure to check out my separate transformation guide. So you're going to take your toy out of the clamshell, and you're going to begin by installing this fin here. And the way you do that is you come back here to those little notches, and you just apply pressure, and it'll pop right into place. Nothing to be concerned about there. Flipping the toy over, you might want to put the pilot in the cockpit. You're going to do that by removing the canopy glass. So it does have a little forward angle that you have to get. Obviously, this is not an opening canopy, so if you're looking for ways that there are compromises here from the 160 scale Yamato toy, that's one of them. The pilot figure also appears to be a repurposed pilot figure. Got a little slot in the bottom, but there's no peg here, so looks like they just repainted a pilot from one of the VF-1 toys, perhaps. He has a lot of room to work with in there. Now, fortunately, he's wide enough that he will stay in place. Just push him back in, and then you're going to, again, get that lip in the front, line things up, press down, and now you've got your pilot in position. Your toy comes with these blocked intake fan covers already installed, which is what they would have in space flight, I suppose. If you want to use the included intake fan detail pieces, shown here, you're going to have to open up the leg and swap out parts. Obviously, this part could have benefited from a little splash of silver or black paint, but it is what it is. The easiest way to pop open the leg cavity is you actually use the wing to your benefit. So if you pull up on the wing, it kind of pushes the leg down, which allows you just to go ahead and pull that down further. You can see the tabs involved. And again, check out my separate transformation guide. Once this is open, we can shove a fingernail in there, slide this piece out, and slide this piece in. Let's see if I got it lined up there. And then close everything back up, and you will have the intake fan detail showing. Now let's get everything lined properly. And there you go. That's what the intake fan detail looks like. There again is the blocked one on the other side, and we're going to repeat on that other side. Flipping our toy over, the toy comes with covers for these hips that are obviously exposed. If they are something that's bothering you, you can take this piece here and plop it in like so. Just a little bit of pressure, it'll pop right into position. And they do leave you a little fingernail line on the back, so you can pop them back out when you are done with them. So just go ahead, apply pressure, and they will pop into place. Now another thing you get is a gun and a gun's attachment piece. So here's the gun, here's the attachment piece, here is how they come together. You just apply pressure like so, turn your toy over, there's a sliding thing in the back, a peg in the front, just line everything up, apply pressure, and it will install in there pretty securely. Not jostle around too much on you like the cards are right there. Next, we have landing gear that come with the toy. On the back, you get little fingernail indents on the side to help you pull them out. As you can see, you could also pop the missiles out, which was something I didn't intend to reference until later, but let's plug that guy back in. So those go, the missiles fit in there pretty securely. Now the front landing gear also, you have a little fingernail slot in the back. Now I have put the gun in. It's a little bit easier to get at this if you don't have that gun already installed, but there you go. Then you just pop in your landing gear as you have on previous high metal toys without any real issue. They stay in nice and secure. So all good things there, except for the fact you actually have to do this instead of just having them being integrated pieces like they are on, say, the Yamato or Arcadia 160 vehicles. So there you go. Now you've got your toy with the landing gear out. You can put it down. It's going to look like this. Now it is very back heavy, so it's going to want to pop a wheelie on you. And you've probably got a lot of things askew from handling it. So check your canards, check your vertical stabilizers. And if it is doing wheelies on you, like these pieces here are a little askew. So a lot of things here that move around and don't have really home positions built into them. So as you handle the toy, you're going to get things just out of alignment. So I could obviously fine tune that a little bit more. So it's going to want to flop back on you. An easy way to cheat and stop that from happening, just bring these little fins on the legs down a little more. And the lower you go with them, the more they will stop the toy from flopping backwards. Obviously, you can put them right up against the ground and they won't move at all, but that kind of ruins the idea of clearance. So a minor issue, if you can definitely find ways to put it down and not have it flop around, but if someone knocks your display case, you might come back later and see it doing a wheelie. Now, one other cool thing to show while I got the toy out like this, these little boosters in the back are ball jointed boosters. So they are articulated, but that's pretty much it. Everything nice and secure together. No gaps that are really too big along the seams. The worst offender for me is definitely up by the nose cone here. I tend to get a little bit of a line there. I wish it was a little tighter, but that's it. Let's check out the display stand. So looking at the bottom of the toy, trying to get that lined up a little straighter. I have this display stand adapter here. This is what we're going to use in fighter and gearwalk modes. It has a couple little pegs that go into these slots right here. And then the larger pegs in the back also have a little groove that they fit into. And we just apply a little pressure. It'll pop into position and it'll be on there nice and sturdy. You don't have to worry about that at all. And then we can just put it on our Tamashii Stage 5 display stand, and now we don't have to worry about landing gear at all. You can use these display stands in a number of different ways to get different positions, banking, that sort of thing. So flexibility that you want. You don't have to worry about the integrated landing gear. I really wish every High Metal R release came with one of these display stands. The VF-4 does, and you will definitely enjoy using it. As with other toys in the High Metal R line, metal in this toy is very limited. At 110 grams, this toy is heavier than the 72 grams of a VF-1, but lighter than the 122 grams of the VF-2SS. Here you can see how it would look on your shelf next to other high metal toys. The Yamato Arcadia VF-4G is 1/60 scale, making it nearly 10 centimeters longer than the High Metal R. Yamato also put a fair amount of metal in their toy, so it tips the scales at 382 grams. When you first get to gearwalk mode, you expose the integrated hands for the first time, and as you might expect, they are pretty small. So a good first step is to grab the integrated, or the fixed posed hands, I should say, and we are going to go ahead. I'm going to use the gun holding hand. Here is the separate grip. I have to fish this into the gun holding hand, which is fortunately kind of a rubbery plastic, so that's how that goes. You can see significantly larger hand here. We just pop that off, pop this on, nice and secure, take the gun, extend the gun, and it'll fit inside there. Now, it's a little tricky with the clearances involved, but there you go. Now I've got my gearwalk holding the gun. I would take the other side, obviously. You don't want to leave one tiny hand on, and add one of the other fixed post hands. Again, just a ball joint, plugs in, and there you go. Now I've got a little bit more natural sized hands on there. Should look pretty good. The VF-4 in gearwalk mode probably isn't for everybody. It's a little bit funky of a design, Bandai's done a pretty good job with it. It holds together very well, although it still has those issues with so many different parts on this toy that you can bump and get out of whack. Now, one thing I wish Bandai had done, and certainly if they ever do a DX toy, I hope they do, it would be really nice if these arms were on a slider and could slide forward to this area here. That would give them a much better range of motion, because as you can see, if I bring this arm all the way forward, it's using the entire bicep area just to get in front of that big housing. So it really nerfs that ability to have arms, to have functional arms in gear walk mode by putting them so far back in that housing. Now, Yamato couldn't do it in 1/60 scale. I can understand why Bandai didn't do it here, but if they ever do a DX version, that would be a great thing to do, as well as making this whole big housing be able to pivot in some direction to really give it more human-like articulation, because Gearwalk and Batroid mode both definitely suffer from those big housings that the arms are within. Now, I did mention removable missiles. They are pretty cool. There you go. One there. The leg missiles also removable. The only missiles that aren't removable, let's see if I can get one of these off. There we go. There's a leg missile off for you. Are these guys here. And that's because in transformation, they need to get out of the way. You will see that in my separate transformation guide. Definitely check that out. You can, if you want to, have the gun installed in fighter or in Gearwalk mode, just like it was before. Although it looks a little less safe for work in Gearwalk mode. That's a little bit awkward. Display stand adapter is exactly the same one that you used for fighter mode. Just plugs on in the exact same way. And then goes on here. And this frees up any balance issues you may have had. You want to get some really steep angles. So Gearwalk mode does incorporate a couple more flaps that will get a skew on you in the back here, as well as all the other ones, so that can be a little frustrating during handling, but certainly you can get everything just right and take some great photos and pose it on your display shelf very nicely. All right, let's continue on to Batroid. The theory is that since the VF-4 has built-in guns in the forearms, it would not have a gun pod, which is why I haven't been so brutal on the fact that this toy requires an attachment piece for fighter mode for the included gun pod. I will say that I think the inclusion of the gun and gun pod really helped this toy out, because the arms are definitely limited in their articulation, and so Batroid mode without a gun pod is kind of limited to some, I don't know, awkward and silly looking poses. But if you throw a gun pod on there, for whatever reason, it looks a little bit more natural and intimidating. So that's cool. Otherwise, we have a ton of articulation to go through, and I'll discuss that before I throw a gun pod in that hand. So starting at the top, we have not just a swivel like on the Arcadia, but a full ball joint head. So you can cock it to either side, and that works out really nicely. Now you've seen already the double ball joint at the shoulder that lets it kind of get down into position. It also gives it a pretty good range of motion, except for the fact there's that giant housing right above it. And that's going to impede pretty much all of the arm from there on out. So we do have an elbow, which gets you about 90 degrees of articulation. And just pop that free. And has an ability to angle outward. So that's cool, although all of it's just a little stiff and awkward. There's a swivel point in there as well. But again, those arms just really limited in what they can do. The hips are ball joints on swivels. So they have a huge range of motion. You can see there's also brown paint on metal that's accomplishing that. So that's going to get scratched up over time, no doubt, but we can come out, we can come out, we can come out, we can twist, we can rock, all of that very good stuff. The knee, huge range of motion, and we can extend it to get even more, like you saw in Gearwalk. There's a great foot on here that has a swivel that goes in and out. It's all very stiff, easier to do on the ground, but there you go. So swivel in and out, and it rocks back and forth, and it twists. So great foot on there, which does allow some great kneeling poses and some great wide stance poses. So that's all good. And again, that's where that gun pod comes in handy because the arms can't really do much. But if you throw a gun in there, it looks pretty dynamic, right? So let's go ahead and throw a gun in there and have some more fun. So here we go. This is what I'm talking about. Not really natural articulation at the arms, but you throw a gun pod in there and you can get this thing doing some stuff that looks pretty outrageous. You can also do one-legged poses if you want to do like running and, you know, turning and shooting, all that stuff. So great stiffness out of the box, great leg and foot articulation, really weak arm articulation, but just enough where you can still have some fun with it. You can't get the gun to go across the chest, obviously. That is a huge hump that it's not going to work. To use the display stand, you have this piece here that just comes over the back and plugs in, and then that plugs in like so, and that then alleviates any need to balance the toy again, and you can get some pretty sweet flying, falling. Definitely adds to the fun factor quite a bit. To sum up this review, this toy is basically a shrunken version of the Yamato or Arcadia VF-4, but done in a better paint scheme. There aren't any new gimmicks, but it's impressive that Bandai was able to shrink the Yamato design so effectively. You lose the integrated hip covers, integrated landing gear, and opening cockpit, but you gain missiles that stay on securely, a gun pod, and some very minor articulation improvements that ultimately make this toy more fun to handle than the Yamato. This mech is one of the more divisive in the Macross universe, but if it appeals to you, then get this toy. Subscribe and check out anymoon.com for my full article, and as always, thanks for watching.